I'm here with Jay Topp. Now, Jay is definitely one of the coolest people I've ever met. So let me introduce him and explain why. He's 22 years old from the Gold Coast, Australia. He's a digital nomad who stepped foot in 57 countries, a number that keeps growing and will likely equal the number of countries here on Earth. And so he calls himself a citizen of the world. He dropped out of school when he was 16, at a time when he started earning more than his teachers while helping his family scale their business. His agency, Lion Social, helps scale businesses from ideation to seven figures and has had a couple of great success stories. He's an excellent musician. On top of that, he's been working on a documentary on digital nomads living in the Arctic Circle, which releases later this year. And his mission is to play a meaningful role in the revolution of education. So that's why I think he's one of the coolest people I've ever met. And so, Jay, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, man. And I think, you're one of the coolest guys other than that as well. So this is going to be a good call.
Yeah, it's amazing how we met, right? Through the power of the internet. It's just incredible that you're across the oceans and we're still talking right now. And the fact that I've met you and we've had conversations before, it's just such a pleasure to get to know you.
Yeah, it's amazing the possibilities now. We're all so connected and yeah, we're no longer limited to the people in our immediate geographical kind of location and we can connect with like-minded individuals from every corner of the earth. It's super inspiring.
Yeah, it definitely is. With that, let's dive straight in. You're extraordinarily unconventional, and you started off very young, rebelled with the cause at school, which I think is always a great sign. But I want to hear what you think is wrong with this whole system, and maybe how can more people escape it earlier on in their life, which is, let's say, high schoolers, without being sucked into this land of just following the instructions. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Mm, yeah, for sure. Great question. I think it's challenging for young people. For it depends on the person. It was challenging for me because I felt like my greatest gifts and my innate abilities and my biggest strengths were treated as like behavioral issues. So the things that I thought I was best at, the things my gift that I felt like I had to give the world, my teachers saw as a behavior problem and something that needed to be punished. So it was extremely frustrating for me. What is the problem? I think there's so many problems. I think one of the problems is like the coercive nature of school. How the school system is trying to coerce or force children to be and act and live a certain way. I think there's problems around, like, there's no outlet to be creative, or very limited outlet to be creative. But if I was to break down the real problem with the education system, is that it's not being taught by people that are living inspired lives. It's being taught by people getting paid like a minimal government wage that have never really done anything meaningful with their lives. That's pretty harsh to say. And there's amazing teachers out there, but for the majority of these people, they don't know what it looks like to live an amazing, inspired life. So how could they teach somebody to do so?
Yeah, yeah, I think school is very authoritarian as well, and the behavioral issues aspect exactly. If you're not following the rules in the system, you're deemed as someone who's having issues. There's a problem with you, not with the system, which is sort of ironic right now. But then, yeah, so sometimes it's like you discover a new mode, a new method of thinking, which is different to the one you've always been exposed to. And then you start questioning, right? You start questioning the things that you've normally been doing without questioning them. And all of a sudden, people are like, now you're different. You're having behavioral issues, if you like. And so, yeah, another part of my question was that how can people who are in this system escape it, right? Oftentimes, like, people don't even know that they are being coerced upon and that they are in this sort of non-freedom like system, but uh, they just take it for granted. They're like, yeah, that's just the way to live, that's just how it is, and they just accept it. But then obviously some don't. They question it. They do something different, like you you dropped out of school when the moment you started earning more than your teachers. So that would be yeah, that's something interesting to delve into
Yeah.
as well. But then yeah, maybe tell us how you started developing these quote unquote behavioral issues, and what was the reason, what you think is the reason for your uh, non-obedience to the rules.
Yeah, I think I was blessed because I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family, and I think entrepreneurs are quite naturally rebellious. Um, I think, yeah, if you grow up as an entrepreneur, you're going to be challenging, questioning. That's the job of an entrepreneur, and I feel like anyway. So, I was in an interesting situation where my father would talk shit about the school system all the time, but still expected me to go, and he would put in these ideas in my head about how, what a waste of time the school system is, how useless the teachers were, and then he would still punish me for if I acted on that information, or if I, so it was quite an interesting dynamic because my parents, like, weren't super sold on the school system, but they still expected me to, like, to get it done, and to finish school, and to still show up and give my best. So yeah, I did quite well in primary school. Like, I was, the school captain in the primary school captain, and had all the badges and everything on the shirt. And then, yeah, once I got to a certain age, maybe around grade 8 or 9, I just, like, I was, yeah, I went through a stage where I got asked to leave. Well, I found myself in 3 different schools inside of, like, the same calendar year. I kept getting asked to leave schools, and I made a decision that, like, I'm gonna find a different way. So I found myself in business anyway, through other circumstances, financial challenges for my family, and I got into marketing and Facebook ads to try and find a solution there, and I was able to do a good job there, and start earning money, and yeah, grew an online business. And then, yeah, once I did my first $10,000 month in that business at 16, I said, that's me. That's me done. From school, I'm earning more than my teachers, so I don't think I need to be here anymore. And my parents were satisfied with that. So I think that's a great path for people to aim towards if you want to leave school, and you need to convince your parents. Essentially, I feel like the purpose of school should be able to, create self-sufficient individuals who can go and, provide for themselves. So once you're able to do that, it's like you don't need to be there anymore. That's, yeah.
Yeah, can you describe how that shift was for you? You s- you obviously were always influenced by your parents at home, entrepreneurial family, like you say, and so you started earning with them. You started helping scale their own business, and then you sort of shifted towards creating your own agency, which I believe is on social still. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So, yeah, I was able to help them solve a problem in their business, which is, the problem of how do you acquire new clients and customers, like, consistently. It's like the challenge of every small business, I guess. And so I was able to solve that for them. And naturally, they had a lot of business owner friends that also wanted that problem solved. So I was able to go
Yeah.
from doing it just for them to starting an agency, and doing it for many businesses in my local area to start with. And then as I grew, people all around Australia, and now we've got clients all around the world.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So maybe the number one rule that you mentioned about marketing and just having a good product, right? Sort of what you embody. So that's amazing.
Yeah, 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 100%. If you can, like, yeah, if you can, that's one of, like, the biggest things I think for young people, if they want to live an empowered life and they want to leave school and live life on their own terms rather than having, their pathway dictated to them by somebody else, is, like, become more valuable, learn a high value skill, because, yeah, you essentially are the product. So, how can you make yourself more valuable? And essentially that's what university is trying to do for you, but just does very poorly. Or that's what school's trying to do, but very poorly. People
Mm.
go to university to become a lawyer or something like that. And I don't know how long's a law degree, maybe like 6 to 8 years, depending on what sort of degree. And a great lawyer, an actually like a really good lawyer, might get charged out at what, $1,000 an hour. Um, but I haven't gone to university. I didn't do any of that, but I was able to learn high value skills where I'm able to charge consulting out at the same price. And yeah, so there's different ways. You don't have to do it that one way.
Definitely. Uh, and so, yeah, you say that your mission is to play a meaningful role in the revolution of education, which I think is pretty awesome and definitely overlaps to what I have in mind with what I want to do. Because, for the reasons we've mentioned and perhaps many others, school isn't the best place for everyone to go, but it's still compulsory in many places for children to go to. And so I was wondering, like, is this where it's come from, or has the role of online learning and just making connections virtually, networking online, like making friends here, is that what's been uh, a little bit of a motivator for you to sort of revolutionize education more, or was it just your personal experience?
Yeah, I think it was a few different things. Like I think our voids create our values. So if we have a void in our life, we tend to like value fixing that, or solution to that. So I think that initial void I had in high school definitely birthed it. But then there's been other factors, like my agency works primarily in the coaching space, as in we work with online coaches to help them grow their businesses. And so I've been in like the online coaching industry as a marketer for the last few years, and I've seen so many lives transformed, and people being able to like live whole new lives by finding the right coach that can help them. And I had a great mentor walk into my life at the age of 17, and it's actually funny. I'm in Paris here at the moment, and I've just got to meet him in person for the first time. He's an Australian guy, but he's been living in Paris for the last few years. His girlfriend's from here, so he's been my mentor since I was 17, and he just showed me a path I could model. He was doing the digital nomad thing, yeah, back 2015, and I met him in like 2017. So he's been doing the digital nomad thing for a long time, and yeah, that opportunity and how I saw that change my life forever. Just one person in one moment in time showing me a path I could model. He's the biggest reason, probably one of the biggest reasons why I was here. I could confidently say that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. Um, so I'd love to be able to give other people that opportunity.
Amazing. Yeah, I want to turn it to digital nomad now. So maybe for the people unfamiliar, just who is a digital nomad, and tell us a bit about your documentary, which is all about digital nomads.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the digital nomad's like quite a broad umbrella, but it's pretty much people who have won their geographical independence. So either they're working for another company, or they've got their own business, or they're a freelancer or something like that, and they don't need to be in a physical location to fulfill their service or product. So some people, choose to travel the world constantly, move in place every week or every few weeks. Some people spend a whole year in a country before moving to the next, but it pretty much means you can work anywhere as long as you got Wi-Fi. So yeah, I've been doing the digital nomad thing on and off since I was 17. So this is my third trip now, and I've kind of got longer every time, with a couple of stints back home in between. And yeah, at the start of this year, I went to the Arctic Circle to the north of Norway, and there was a co-working, co-living space there, where digital nomads were going and living in this little cabin at the bottom of this big fjord in the middle of winter. And I thought I had to go try that experience. So I went and did that, was blown away, had an amazing time, and ended up filming a documentary called Digital North, which talks all about people co-working, digital nomads in unique locations like the Arctic Circle, rather than the typical places like Bali or Thailand, where it's kind of more set up. It's a bit more of a friendly environment for digital nomads. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I saw you explain somewhere that Bali is one of the worst places to be a digital nomad, and you
Yeah,
explained.
great headline. Yeah, like I think in some ways it's a great place to be digital nomad, and I'd love to spend more time in Bali. But yeah, I believe travel's a powerful tool for personal transformation, and you have to get
Hmm.
outside of your comfort zone a little bit more to experience that transformation. And chances are you probably won't be forced too far out of your comfort zone as an Australian in Bali.
Yeah, like when I hear of the term digital nomad or someone who's attained their geographical independence, my mind would automatically conjure up images of a person working in front of the beach with their laptop and watching the sun go down and this white sand and whatnot. And so places like Bali, Thailand, they just shoot up. But you went to the Arctic Circle to challenge yourself, as you say, and this perhaps displays your unconventionality again. And so, yeah, just how was it going to the Arctic Circle and living as a digital nomad, still working through your agency, and then filming a documentary? How was filming the documentary as well?
Yeah, it was amazing, man. Like it was a shock. It was it's far from home from what I know. I'm from the Gold Coast, Australia. It's like a surf town on the east coast of Australia with like pretty much no winter. Winter's like 18 degrees Celsius and sunny days, and and summer's like hot, mid 30s for months on end. So to go from that to some of the colder days were like negative 20. You had to dig yourself out of the snow every morning to open the door. And I was surfing in the snow, and I was
Okay.
swimming naked in the ice water, and it was an amazing experience, man. Like it was far from everything I've ever encountered before, and it was an amazing opportunity to look at myself, to look at the world, to look at humanity through a completely different lens that I wouldn't have been afforded, I don't think, anywhere else in the world. And to be able to bring a cameraman, my good friend Dom, he's here in Paris at the moment. He's not with me right now. He's staying with a friend. And we're filming another project at the moment. But to bring him over there and to capture, some of those experiences and put it in a piece that hopefully will inspire many other people was, yeah, extremely meaningful.
Yeah, Digital North, your documentary, it's releasing later this year, which I very much look forward to watching. And was it the trip? So you went to the Arctic Circle, and was it after that that you thought, okay, I should create a film, a documentary, and tell the story of all these people working in this space? Or was it that you'd not set foot in the country, and just before you had this idea of um, I should be making something here, like I should be going and just starting and exploring the space and creating documentary? So what was it?
I originally was just going to be there for like 40 days.
Okay.
And I ended up spending like 4.5 months there. So about a month in, I was like, okay, we got to create something here. We got to tell this story. This is amazing. So then I flew Dom out a couple months later, and we
Wow.
filmed together for about a month. So yeah, I didn't go there planning to necessarily shoot a documentary. I was on that, like I was starting to explore different ideas around storytelling and creatively, like questioning, like some, like, I don't know, just looking for other creative outlets apart from just Lion Social. And then this seemed like the perfect opportunity to explore that.
Great. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, that's just amazing, when you look at all that. And so, like, it's really inspiring because right now I've been looking for places to spend my travel time in my gap year, which is in a couple of years. And so, this thing is really inspiring when you think about you mentioning not to go to the conventional places, looking for something even more challenging. Like, I do want that. So, most people there are these conventional locations that you go to Southeast Asia or Australia or uh, New Zealand. those kinds of places on your gap here, and you find
Mm.
similar travelers and tourists there, so you can hang out with them. But now I'm like, yeah, shall I go to the Arctic Circle? I don't know. So that's pretty cool. Like I think Southeast Asia would be a challenge in itself, but still thinking about it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you like you go. I go through stages where I want to be challenged in that way, and sometimes I've got enough challenges on my plate, and I don't need to be somewhere crazy. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a cool mix, but yeah, I think a good mix, man. Like, yeah, I think it's like Australia is an amazing country. New Zealand's so beautiful. And Southeast Asia definitely has some challenging places to be for sure.
Hmm.
There's a lot of adventure to be had in Southeast Asia. But yeah, I'm sure you'll work it out, man. Just yeah, go with an open mind and let life lead you, and you'll end up in some amazing places for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Um. So yeah, like you've traveled to 57 countries. What was the most profound thing all this traveling has taught you? I know it's often cumulative and like boiling it down to one thing is difficult because of the complementarities, but just try your best to answer. What's the most profound thing you've learned from traveling all this much?
Yeah, great question. I think if I was to note it down to like like the key thing that like changed a lot for me from when I was like say your age to my age was I grew up inside, like I was raised in a Christian home, which I'm extremely grateful for. But you know, that comes along with like dogmatic, pretty black and white sort of thinking about the world and yourself and just, you know, life in general. So that was probably the biggest thing that I've learned over the last few years was like transcending this black and white, yes or no, very straightforward way of seeing the world. You know, when I went one of my first when I was 18. I did a trip when I was 17 for a couple months, and that was amazing just to, you know, leave home and you know, have a bit of independence and do my own thing. And overseas was pretty amazing. But then I went on a trip when I was 18 for about 10 months, and I started in the Middle East, actually in Palestine. I thought I was staying in Israel, but it turns out my accommodation was in Palestine. I didn't check my booking too tightly, and you know, that experience there, landing in the heart of this like just completely different world, and all these different people with different values and ideas, and a lot of conflict, but also a lot of beauty and love. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this world is not black and white. This is not straightforward. This is this is very gray. And I'm going to stop pretending like I know anything, and I'm just going to seek to understand.
Hmm. So was it like perhaps changing the way you think about your own religion? Was it more spiritual in a way? Because I think just getting a mix of all these cultures can lead you to think that, you were just in this spot that you were thinking about, and there's such a big world uh, beyond this small view that you have, and then all of a sudden, like you start to realize that this is not the only way to think about the world. Perhaps it's like a wrong way, or perhaps dogmatism isn't the way to go. So, how was it like? Just, I presume it would be a gradual change, like going through so many countries, but then again, sort of spontaneous.
Yeah, man. It was yeah, I would say the changes were they affected all pillars of my life, from, you know, like spiritually, intellectually, you know, socially, how I viewed family. Yeah, it reconfigured my whole worldview over the course of a couple of years, and I think it yeah, it changed everything from the inside out, I think. And yeah, the more places I went, I think I discovered that who the idea of what a good life was and what it meant to live a good life, because I think everyone wants to live a good life, was so different depending on where I was. And that yeah, that all morality um, was very localized. And it would be a shame, like I didn't have to limit myself to a single morality of what people thought was right or wrong, because it changes depending on what side of the line you're on. You can cross one little border, and it's they got a completely different idea of the world and what you should do. So I thought, hey, I should just decide for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So deciding for yourself, do you look at these different viewpoints and cultures as sort of relativistically, in the sense that they're right according to themselves, or they're just being the way. So they have their own morality, we have our own, or were you like criticizing the morality that other cultures have, maybe not in a bad way? Because when we think about criticism, it's sort of in a good way because you're criticizing to make progress, right? That's the only way we know how progress is made. If you're not criticizing, again, it's just being dogmatic and you're stuck in those ideas. So what was happening when you were going to all these countries is that their different worldview that was clashing with the one you currently had in your mind, and so that was making you sort of rethink about some stuff that you've taken for granted. So you were criticizing those ideas, were criticizing your ideas. So which is a kind of very fun. And so yeah, like how do you view these differences and such diversity across the world? Because I know it's like very beautiful, and we humans, we're sort of the only people. Not people. We are the only animals to like. Yeah, we are people, but we like the only animals to show this extreme diversity. When you look at other animals, they're just like you know uh, powered by instinct, and they just do whatever's written in their DNA code. And but we have so many cultures, so many different ideas, and it's just amazing that there's so much of diversity just when you cross the border. And yeah, like how do you view all of that, like all this diversity? Do you take them relativistically? Do you criticize them? Have your own sort of moral compass guiding you?
Yeah, I think I thought it was beautiful to witness how other people, yeah, viewed the world, and it was cool to have conversations about what people thought was a good life or a good way to live. And yeah, I just kind of like became a student and tried not to necessarily judge, but just seek to understand, and yeah, and I guess what resulted was I was like, I think I just made a decision that everything was up for grabs. Every decision was open to criticism. Sorry, every idea was open to criticism, my own and theirs, and that was exciting. And I just, yeah, I thought, I guess I came to the conclusion that I was born, into this world, and I didn't choose my name, my country, my religion, my family. I didn't choose anything. So, I'm under no obligation. I didn't choose to be here. I'm under no obligation to act or be a certain way. I don't have to conform to any ideology. Let me just have my own experience and test and measure things for myself. And that's meant, testing and challenging ideas in business, in relating,
Yeah.
in, where to live geographically. Like it's just, man, I've got, and I think that's what I see as maybe like one of the purposes of my life is just to challenge convention. And
Mm,
yeah, I think that excites me.
yeah. Like when it's just in one aspect of your life, when you're starting to question something, when you're getting that unconventional mindset, it's not like it's not going to remain in that one aspect of your life. It's just going to take up your whole life, and you'll start questioning all things. And maybe that's what you did when you traveled all these different countries. Maybe it wasn't very automatic and stuff, but you were thinking differently about what you've been thinking about since the time you were born. And so um, yeah, it's just a curious thing, like when you're unconventional in one aspect, it can't stick to that one aspect forever. It's gonna take over your whole life, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Everything's connected, and how you do one thing is how you do everything. So yeah, the bit of
Mm,
curiosity and challenge kind of gets in there. It kind of just finds its way into everything.
yeah, yeah. It's like yeah, like that was great. How you do one thing is how you do everything, and it's like how you do everything is how you do one thing, right? The everything in the world will affect your worldview, and your worldview will shape your world, right? Everything in the world outside that will be like the one inside your head, and the one inside your head would be everything you see, which is just a curious thing. So yeah, perspective really matters, I guess. And yeah, like what? So when you think about home, the concept of home, uh, there's very different ways people describe home. One is like, home is where where the people are, where your people are. Some others would think, no, home is where you've actually bought your house and you've created this home thing, kind of thing. And maybe for others, it's like where your best food is or something like that. And what is home to you as a digital nomad? Since y- maybe you perhaps don't stay at your quote unquote real home where you've been born and brought up and stuff like that. But yeah, what's your view of home? How do you take home of yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I think, one of my favorite quotes is, "The world is my home.
Yeah,
Every country a room in the house. Every city a platform for me to share my heart and soul." And I think it was Aristotle. I don't know. It was one of the ancient like Greek philosophers used to say, I'm not a man of Corinth. I'm not a citizen of Rome. I'm a citizen of the world.
mm,
And I think like if we can expand our idea of what can be a home, like and instead of think so like locally about home, and think, and I think, as we think bigger than our cities and think the size of our state and think bigger than the size of our state and think the size of our country and think bigger than the size of our country and think about the whole world and then start thinking about, our whole solar system or, the whole universe. And I think the whole world, I think in like hundreds of years' time when we're traveling through space, it will be all right for the whole of Earth to be our home. I think
yeah,
that'll be it. If somebody asks where you're from and you say I'm from Earth, that'll make sense. You won't have to be more specific than that.
for sure. And yeah, like when you think of home, it's like home is not something that Earth is for us. Like you could call it home, but then uh, it's not just that nature is something that's truly blissful, right? Sure, the forests and stuff, they look pretty, and beaches, they're amazing, and nature has provided us with so much amazing stuff here on earth. But it's also very lethal. Like when you think of tornadoes and all the natural disasters, they're all natural, they're all nature. And yeah, I mean, that's a part of being at home, right? And so what
Yeah.
we've been doing is like, home wasn't just given to us. We humans have been making it our home. And so,
Mm,
like, yeah, the world, sure, it can be our home, but more than it being our home, it's that we're making the world our home. We're making the universe our home. So that's like an interesting concept where I think choice is involved, like thinking of something as your home. And so, yeah, I always thought like it would be a curious thing to ask a digital nomad what their conception of home would be like, because, yeah, that's a great answer.
yeah. And I think it's cool. Like, yeah, it's like in the past, home was, yeah, where you bought a house and where your network of friends and family and everything was. But, I think my network of friends and family is scattered all around the world now, and they're not just in one town in the world. Like, so I think that helps as well. It's like all my friends and family are scattered all around the world, and I'm making new friends all the time, all around the world. Um, yeah, which is cool.
Amazing. Yeah. Earlier you said that this was a third trip and you're joining from France here on this call. So, like, how many countries do you visit during a single trip? How is it that you've gone to like 57 countries on 3 trips, or have I misunderstood something?
Yeah, I moved. Yeah, 57 countries over my whole life. I traveled a bit. I've traveled a bit with my family when I was younger as well,
Hmm.
but the vast majority, I would say, I traveled to maybe like 8 countries with my family, and then I've done, say 50 or 49 since I was like 17, sort of thing. So my first trip was a couple of months, and then the trip I did when I was like 18, for about 10 months. I hit many countries in that trip. I think I did something like 35 countries, or maybe even like, it was crazy the amount of countries I did in that one trip, and I went insane. Um, I was going to like I just wanted to see everything, experience it all, and I was going to like a new country. Like I was going to like 2 new countries a week, especially like a lot of it was in Europe and North Africa and the Middle East. So they're very close to each other, these countries, so I smashed out a lot of countries that way. This trip's been different. I've only done, I think, this trip I've been away from home for about 15 months. I've been away from Australia. I don't know if I can call it home anymore. I don't know. Maybe it still is. I still used to calling it home. And I've only been to like 3 new countries in the
Okay.
last 14 months. I've been returning to a lot of my favorite spots from that big trip. Um, but typically, I like to try and stay in a place for at least 2 months at a time. But
Mm.
I've been jumping around quite a bit lately. Just yeah, I've had things to do and places to be, so I've been bouncing around too much, and it gets a bit uncomfortable when you move. It's not so sustainable if you're changing places too often. I feel like 2 months is a good time frame for me. Anymore, I can do it, but I feel a bit unsettled, when you get out of a routine, and there's a lot more friction. Just trying to get sorted all the time.
Hmm. Yeah, you go on a 10-month trip. How do you plan for that? How you plan for such a thing like visiting so many countries? Or do you plan, or
You
do
don't
do you
really.
not plan? You don't plan. Okay. All right.
I thought I was on for that trip. I thought I was going to be gone for I thought I was going to be gone for about 4 or 5 weeks, and it turned into 10 months, and it just kept
Wow.
extending, and I didn't want to go home. But for example, and even this trip's been pretty unplanned. Like I was supposed to be driving a car from the Netherlands to Morocco at the moment. Um, but I changed the plan. My car got stolen,
Okay.
and I couldn't register one. So I ended up just bailing, and now I'm in France, and I'm just going to chill in France for a while. So plans change. But for next year is going to be a lot more relaxed for me. I plan to spend the first half of the year in Mexico City, like 4 or 5 months in Mexico City, and then I'll go to we got a place that we love to go to in the Greek islands and on the island of Kythera, and we've booked a place there for like 2 months. So it'll be a bit slower next year, which would be nice. It's been a pretty big year of moving this year.
Nice. Great. Yeah, I mean, taking it slow later on, that's cool. I love the no plan stuff. It's the definition of a nomad, right? You just going away, just taking where the road takes you. And so, pretty cool stuff. So, all this time, I'm assuming you were working on your digital business on social and just
Yeah.
scaling other people's stuff from there. So, that was helping you stay afloat.
Yeah. So I've been able to build a great business. Remotely. Um, so yeah, that's been a cool thing because a lot of people, they can't, like they feel like they have to choose between building a career and building a business or going traveling, and they have like this false dichotomy in their head where I feel like
Mm,
you don't have to choose, but you can have both.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. 'Cause, like, so many businesses right now, they're just completely online, right? And if you're doing something like that, sure, you can be at home or you could be at another place, a coffee shop somewhere in a different country. And this whole idea of a digital nomad is just amazing. I'm really looking forward to a documentary which is digital nomads in a rather unconventional place, the Arctic Circle. So yeah, what are your next steps for it? Are you planning to release it on some big show like Netflix or something? Um, I know it's later this year. And how you going? What are the next steps for you?
Yeah. I would. I'll have to share after this, man. I've got like a cut of the documentary it's pretty close to the final cut. I'll let you have a watch of it as long as you don't
Awesome.
share it with anybody. um, So yeah, the plan is we haven't like we'll submit it to the film festivals in the next couple of weeks, and yeah, we're gonna shop around and see. Like we haven't chosen how we're gonna distribute it yet. Like my goal and my hope for the film is just to have the biggest reach and um, have as many people inspired to live an unconventional life and follow what's really in their heart rather than what they've been told they're supposed to do. So the more people that we can like inspire, the better. And yeah, my steps from here, I'm starting a obviously building my business. I'm going to hang out in France, I think, until December. And then I might head back to Australia to see my mother and my father for Christmas. They've been missing me a bit, so I'll go say hi to them, and then all my siblings. I'm one of seven kids, so I'll see them. And yeah, and for the next 2 months, yeah, focused on online social, um, building a team, slowly building the team out, and yeah, I'm also starting a new project. It's called An Education in the World, and we'll drop the first episode. It's going to be a YouTube series, and it's essentially following my journey of traveling the world and seeking my own education, my own self-determined, self-led education, seeking out mentors, teachers, and knowledge for myself as I travel the world. So I'm really excited. We filmed the first episode of that in Holland a few days ago, and we're filming the second episode tomorrow morning in Paris. So yeah, I'm excited to share that with you.
Yeah, that's very cool. Glad to know. But yeah, when are you coming to India? India definitely has to be one of the countries on your radar, isn't it? And do you have any broader goals that are related to revolutionizing education? Maybe anything planned as of yet in the near future, or not so near future, or are you still going through the process of planning?
Yeah, I really want to come to India. So I think I feel like India is going to be like an important part of my story and my journey. Like I feel a strong call to spend some serious time in India. I think it's got like such a rich history and so much. I feel like there's a lot there for me. So I actually feel like the year, like I feel like 2024, I'm gonna like spend some solid time. I feel like Mexico is definitely next year. I feel a strong call to spend a lot of time in Mexico and some other places in Central South America, but I feel like India 2024 for sure. So we'll have to try and hang out before then, man. You'll have to come
Definitely.
over to Mexico or something, or
Yeah,
and then yeah, my goal, like with this, playing a meaningful role in the revolution of education. I've got a few, yeah, incrementally making steps towards that, and if everything goes to plan, I'm going to launch a little event, like a little 3-day event, um, maybe in like February next year, um, for young people like you that want to live an inspired life, that want to master all areas of their life, and they want to build a business around their unique gifts. And so I'm gonna do like a 3-day event, and I'm gonna bring together some of the biggest mentors that have played a role in my life and have helped me live this life and go on this path. And yeah, put together an event. So it's obviously just in the stages at the moment, planning. Haven't got a date locked in yet, but yeah, that's going to be, I guess, my first real step into creating something.
that sounds super awesome. Yeah, I would love to check more on that, and definitely great. Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned a lot of like you mentioned mentors a lot of times, and like obviously on your search of knowledge, you would have encountered different people, and I'm assuming you also read a lot of books, and so you're an avid reader as well. And so, what are some books, some people, some mentors that have shaped your worldview, shaped your life?
Yeah, for sure, man. I think it's cool to try and find great mentors in every area of your life that you kind of want to empower. Typically, it's pretty rare that you'll find somebody who's empowered in all areas of their life.
Mm,
Most people that are really empowered in one or two areas of their life will be quite disempowered in the other areas. It's kind of just like how humans work. So what I've tried to do is try and find different people that are empowered in different areas. But some of the biggest mentors in my life, the biggest one has probably been like Dr. John D. Martini, and he's like a polymath, an amazing. an amazing man who's, I feel like he is like a true master and is empowered in all areas of his life. So he's been a huge part of my journey. And I spend time studying him most days. He's got some amazing programs. Um, my mentor Ben, like who I'm here to see in Paris, he's played a huge role in my journey as far as business go, and even parts of like spirituality. He's been a huge role in that. My father was a great mentor for me, and the books, like, oh man, it's there's been so many great books. I'd have to put together like a list of some of the greatest books that have really helped me on my journey. I think some of just like the foundational, like personal development stuff, like the basics of personal development, like Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor, Dale Carnegie, those like Napoleon Hill, like those really like OG sort of personal development books. Like they're basic, but they're the foundations for a reason. They really played a big role in my life. Guys like Osho was a big part of my journey, and a lot of his books were amazing. I'm a huge fan of Osho. And like David Joyce, The Beginning of Infinity, I really picked that book up about 18 months ago, I think, for the first time, and slowly made my way through it with Brett Hall's series. And I guess that's how we really connected on The
Yeah.
Beginning of Infinity Twitter. um, and that, yeah, that book's been amazing. Like, I think that really, I don't think I ever grew intellectually so much. Like apart from reading that book, like it just, yeah, it changed my life for sure.
Yeah, same story for sure. Uh, I- the beginning of Infinity obviously has been profoundly impactful on my life. I've met so many people because of it, and just personally as well, it's totally carved my worldview, which is completely different to the one I previously had before reading that book. So it's one book I recommend to everyone. And yeah, just before that, even the foundational personal development stuff, I've read Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think those were very powerful. Then Robert Kiyosaki. So yeah, those classics are, of course, great to read and go back to. So yeah. Yeah, so that's all I had for today. It's been wonderful chatting to you and doing this podcast. And yeah, looking forward to what you do next.
Yeah, man, it's been so nice to chat, and yeah, I feel like we could chat forever about so many different things. But it's been so nice getting to know you as well, man. And I think, it gets me so excited for the future where there's young people like you, taking radical responsibility for their own education, that are inspired to live amazing lives, to solve valuable problems, and to seek truth, to seek beauty, like, yeah, man, you've got an amazing, exciting life ahead of you, and no doubt you're going to change the world, man. And I'm honored to know you, and to play, and to see and to be a part of like a small part of your journey here.
That's so kind. Um, yeah, it was wonderful chatting. Really enjoyed our time here, and thanks so much again for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me, man.